Picture this. You are walking onto the back lot of a major film studio.
Oh, okay, I'm picturing it.
And everywhere you look, hundreds of people are just moving with this absolute intense purpose. You look up, and there's a grip hanging these massive, heavy lights 40 feet up on a swaying metal lift.
Which is terrifying, by the way.
Totally terrifying. And you look over, and the costume department is like frantically steaming wardrobe for a scene that shoots in literally 10 minutes.
Right.
You've got a camera operator dialing in the focus on this massive lens, and an assistant director is just standing there by a monitor, quietly counting down to the next take.
Right.
And to anyone standing on the outside looking in, it just looks like pure, unadulterated chaos.
Oh, it really does. It looks like a circus that is just constantly teetering on the edge of spinning completely out of control. I mean, there are power cables everywhere. You've got hundreds of walkie-talkies going off at the same time, trucks backing up. It's total sensory overload.
Exactly. But according to the source material we're diving into today, which is an excerpt from a film production textbook, specifically Chapter 1, above and below the line, it's actually one of the most highly tuned, incredibly precise management machines on Earth.
It really is.
So, welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to look under the hood of that machine and decode the invisible organizational structure of Hollywood. And we aren't just doing this for film trivia. We want to take these massive studio-level management lessons and apply them directly to you.
Right, the listener.
Yeah, you the listener. Whether you're a film student trying to organize a weekend shoot, a beginner making something on your phone, or honestly just anyone trying to organize a complex project with a lot of moving parts.
I think that's the perfect lens to view this through, honestly, because the textbook establishes this core premise right out of the gate in the first chapter, which is that great filmmaking requires great organization.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, think about it. When you sit in a dark theater, you're supposed to see the emotion, right? You see the spectacle, the explosions, the quiet, tearful goodbyes. But what you are absolutely not supposed to see is the invisible planning.
Right, the logistics.
Exactly. If the audience is sitting there thinking about where the crew parked the trucks or how they got electricity into the middle of a remote forest or what the backup plan was if it started raining well, then the movie has fundamentally failed.
That makes so much sense. We always think of storytelling in this highly romanticized way, like we picture the visionary auteur out in the desert just dreaming up a masterpiece, or the lone genius with a typewriter.
The tortured artist.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But this source argues that it's actually a team sport on a massive scale. To put it in a different context, it's essentially like building a brand new startup company from scratch every single time you want to tell a story.
That startup analogy hits the nail right on the head. And it actually brings us to a concept from the text that explains why film production is so uniquely difficult. It's what they call the temporary organization.
The temporary organization.
Right. Think about how a normal corporation works. Companies like, say, Apple or Disney or Ford Motor Company, they are designed to exist indefinitely.
Right, they just keep going.
Yeah, employees might retire, CEOs get replaced, the product lines shift around, but the corporate entity itself remains. But a film production operates on a completely different set of physical laws.
Because it has a built-in expiration date right from day one.
Yes. Whether it's a $100 million feature film, a streaming series, a local commercial, whatever, the project creates a temporary organization. I mean, imagine if Ford built this massive, fully functioning automobile factory, hired thousands of experts, produced exactly one single car, and then immediately demolished the factory.
That sounds insane when you put it that way.
But that is a film production. Once the movie is done, the organization completely dissolves. The crew members scatter to other jobs, the camera equipment goes back to the rental house,
Right.
the production office is shut down, bank accounts are zeroed out and closed, and the company literally just ceases to exist.
And because of that, because they are constantly spinning up these pop-up companies, they have to ask the exact same fundamental questions every single time. Like, how do we organize people, money, equipment, locations, and time to tell this specific story?
Exactly.
Who controls the bank account? Who builds the daily schedule? Who secures the locations? And, who ensures everyone actually gets paid on a Friday?
Which is really the beating heart of production management right there. Answering those very specific, grounded questions is what forms the organizational structure of every professional production in the world.
Okay, I have a hard time buying that, though. Well, I'm putting myself in the shoes of a student listener right now. A weekend garage shoot with 5 friends and a budget of $0 cannot possibly use the same management structure as a Marvel movie with a 2,000-person crew. That just sounds like massive overkill.
It does sound like overkill, I'll give you that. But the text specifically addresses that hesitation. The mechanics of the process, they actually do not change.
Wait, really? So you're saying the spreadsheet just gets more zeros, but the actual columns like crew, gear, food, time, those stay exactly the same?
Precisely. The scale changes drastically, obviously, but the principles are identical. Whether you have 15 people on your crew or 1,500, you are solving the exact same logistical puzzle.
That's wild.
I mean, you still need someone to hold the camera. You still need someone to direct the actors' performances.
Yeah.
You still need someone to secure the location, even if that location is just your parents' living room. And crucially, you still have to figure out what everyone is eating for lunch. So a studio executive and a student filmmaker, they're actually practicing the exact same project management skills.
That is a massive perspective shift.
Right.
Because you aren't just, playing it, making a movie with your friends. You are actually running a micro studio.
Exactly.
Which means you actually have to structure it like one if you want to survive the weekend. And if every production, big or small, has to answer those same logistical questions, well, they need a budget structure.
Right. Which brings us to the industry's most famous and probably most misunderstood accounting terms.
Oh, here we go. Above the line and below the line.
Yes, the classic ATL and BTL.
Right. Because if you walk onto any film set, or honestly, even if you just read an entertainment blog, you will hear these terms thrown around. And it sounds like some sort of secret Hollywood caste system.
Yeah.
So where does this line actually come from?
It actually comes from a very literal physical place. It dates back to the golden era of the Hollywood studio system, like the 1920s and 30s. When studio accountants and producers were organizing these production budgets on massive sheets of ledger paper, they would literally draw a thick horizontal black line across the page to separate two very distinct categories of expenses for the banks.
So let's look at who sits above that physical line on the paper.
Yeah.
Above the line generally includes the creative leadership who originate and guide the project, right? The text lists the producer, the executive producer, the director, the screenwriter, and the principal cast.
Yeah, that's the core group. And the defining characteristic of this above-the-line group is really about when they are hired.
When they are hired.
Right. Their compensation is usually negotiated individually long before the production actually begins.
Because they are the ones who often determine if the movie even gets made in the first place. I mean, if we go back to our startup analogy, the above-the-line folks are essentially the founders, the board of directors, and the core IP.
Yes, exactly. Like, a producer might spend 5 years developing a script and pitching it before a single camera is ever even rented. Or attaching a massive A-list actor is literally the only reason the bank agrees to finance the movie. That happens all the time. Their attachment secures the financing, so their salaries are often these fixed costs that are negotiated up front. So that's above the line. It's project development, financing, and creative vision.
Right.
Now, below the line refers to the professionals responsible for physically executing the production after the project gets the green light.
So this would be the engineers, the operations team, the logistics experts of our startup.
Exactly. It's the operational engine that makes the vision possible. Below the line includes hundreds of specialized positions. You've got the unit production manager, the assistant directors, the camera department.
Grip, electric, sound.
Right. Art, costumes, hair and makeup, props, catering, editors, accountants. Once the financing is locked, these are the departments that transform that above-the-line blueprint into a tangible reality.
I can hear a student listener getting really uncomfortable with this structure right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it sounds incredibly hierarchical and, frankly, a bit toxic. Like the above folks sound like the royalty, the visionaries with the grand ideas, and the below folks sound like the disposable laborers just taking orders. Is this about status?
Oh, absolutely not. But that is the single biggest misconception among beginning filmmakers. And the source material actually spends a lot of time refuting it. Above the line does not mean more important.
Okay.
It doesn't measure talent, it doesn't measure skill, and it certainly doesn't measure value to the final product.
It really is just a timeline line of when you signed your contract.
Completely. I mean, think about the physical mechanics of making a movie. A producer can have the greatest, most profound vision in the world, but they physically cannot photograph a scene without a camera crew. A director cannot light a set. The actors literally cannot perform if the costume department hasn't painstakingly prepared their wardrobe. And as the text points out, no one gets to watch the movie if the below-the-line accounting department fails to pay the vendors, the gear gets repossessed, and the whole production shuts down.
Or honestly, if the caterer doesn't show up, the movie stops. Period.
Exactly.
Oh.
A hungry crew will mutiny. I've seen it. So the distinction between above and below the line is purely about specialized expertise and budget timelines, not ego. Professional productions succeed because every single department contributes highly technical knowledge.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because if above the line is the blueprint and below the line is the construction crew building the house, what happens when they clash?
Ah, right.
Like, let's say the director wants a massive, unscripted explosion in a scene, but the below-the-line accountant says there is absolutely no money left for that. Who actually resolves that fight? How do these groups talk to each other without the whole thing collapsing into just a screaming match?
Well, that is exactly why a rigid hierarchy of communication has to exist. And the textbook breaks this down by looking at the specific friction between the key roles. So let's start with the producer.
Okay.
The producer manages the business entity. They oversee the entire production from the very first idea to the final distribution. The producer is constantly asking one overarching question: can we successfully make this film and survive?
Which puts them in direct, necessary friction with the director. Because the director isn't asking that at all. The director is managing the storytelling.
Right. The producer builds the organization. The director leads its creative vision. The director's core question isn't, can we afford to make this? It's, how should the audience experience this story?
They want it to be amazing.
Exactly. The director is inherently incentivized to push the boundaries, to ask for more time, more lights, more takes, all for the sake of the art.
But the producer is often, too busy dealing with the studio or the financiers to police the daily catering bill or argue over how many extras are in a background shot, which means there has to be a middleman.
Yes. Enter the UPM, the unit production manager.
Ah, the UPM.
The UPM is the operational backbone of the entire shoot. They are the ultimate reality check. They work closely with the producer to transform the director's creative plans into practical reality. So they track the budget line by line, they hire the crew, coordinate equipment rentals, and just generally make sure the production stays on schedule.
So they are the ones who have to look at the director and say, I know you want a massive explosion, but we literally cannot afford the pyrotechnics, so we need to find a creative workaround.
Yes, exactly. They balance what the director creatively desires with the physical resources that actually exist. And then taking it one step further down the operational chain, on the actual set, standing there while the cameras are rolling, you have the first AD.
The first assistant director. And it's important to note the first AD is not directing the actors.
Not at all. While the director is looking at the performances and the emotional resonance of the scene, the first AD is entirely focused on time, safety, and executing the daily schedule.
They're like the field general.
Exactly. If the UPM says, hey, we only have this location for 2 days, the first AD is the person yelling quiet on set and coordinating all the departments to make sure they actually finish shooting before the sun goes down and they get kicked out.
This is a trap that beginners and students constantly fall into, especially when they're filming with their friends.
Oh, for sure.
On a student's set, hierarchy feels kind of uncool. It feels bossy to assign someone as the UPM or the first AD. You just want it to be a pure democracy where everyone has an equal say in the creative vision.
Yeah, and the text has a specific section addressing this exact trap. From a producer's perspective, beginning filmmakers assume hierarchy exists to establish authority, like to prove who is the boss. But in reality, on a functioning set, hierarchy exists to create clarity.
Clarity over authority, that's good.
Yes, and the text gives a perfect high-stakes example of why this matters. Imagine a production assistant, a PA, is walking across the set and notices a safety issue with a heavy lighting stand. It looks like it's improperly balanced and is about to tip over onto an actor. If that PA doesn't know the chain of command, they might wander off trying to find the producer to complain, or worse, they might try to fix the heavy electrical equipment themselves.
Oh, man.
Right. Valuable time is lost, and someone could get seriously injured.
Because they bypass the operational system.
Exactly. But if everyone understands the chain of command, that PA knows they don't go to the director, they don't go to the producer. They report it immediately to the gaffer, who is the head of the lighting department, or to the first AD, who is legally in charge of set safety.
That makes total sense.
Following the chain of command isn't about being bossed around. It prevents conflicting instructions and ensures critical information reaches the exact right person instantly. Good management doesn't create bureaucracy. It creates clarity so everyone can focus on telling the story without getting hurt.
It's not about who gets to sit in the fancy canvas chair with their name on it. It's about making sure the lighting stand doesn't crush somebody. Which actually brings us to a really practical application for a student listener. Because we've talked about these high-level concepts, the temporary corporation, the above-the-line budget, the communication hierarchy. But how does a student actually apply this when they are filming in their literal backyard with consumer gear?
Well, the source material provides a brilliant case study for this, actually. Steven Spielberg's 2022 film, The Fabelmans.
Oh, I love that they use this. What's fascinating about how the textbook uses the Fabelmans is that it skips traditional film analysis entirely. We aren't looking at the cinematography or the thematic meaning of a boy's coming-of-age story.
Right. No.
We are using a semi-autobiographical movie about young Steven Spielberg as a masterclass in independent project management.
It's a genius way to frame it. I mean, the film shows young Sammy Fabelman starting out with nothing but a toy train, an 8mm consumer camera, and his family. It basically proves the fundamental truth we've been discussing. No production is too small to require planning, resource allocation, and teamwork.
Sammy is basically a one-man above-the-line studio right there in his living room.
He is. He assumes all the creative leadership roles simultaneously. He is the producer securing the financing from his parents, obviously the director blocking the action, the writer inventing the scenarios, and the editor splicing the tape.
And his friends and sisters naturally become his below-the-line crew.
Exactly. They are helping fabricate costumes, they're scouting locations in the local desert, acting and moving his little camera around. It perfectly illustrates how independent filmmakers have to embody all of these distinct hierarchical roles early in their careers just to get the thing made.
But, Sammy isn't dealing with union contracts or negotiating with the UPM over million-dollar pyrotechnics. So what is the defining management lesson he learns that our listener can actually apply to their own zero-budget shoot today?
The defining lesson is really about creative problem solving and how he views constraints. There's a specific scene detailed in the text where Sammy is shooting a World War II film out in the dirt with his friends.
Right, the war movie.
Yeah. And he obviously doesn't have a below-the-line visual effects department or professional explosive charges. He wants realistic gunshot effects, but his budget is literally zero. So he figures out a mechanical workaround.
He physically alters the film itself,
Yes.
right?
He takes a tiny pin and physically pokes holes directly into the film emulsion right where the guns are firing. So when the film is projected, the bright projector light shines straight through those pinholes, creating the exact visual illusion of bright muzzle flashes on the screen.
Wow. That is incredible project management.
It is, because he didn't look at his lack of professional gear as a hard stop. He didn't just, wait for a bigger budget. He treated his limitations as a creative challenge. And that mindset is the absolute secret to longevity in this industry.
Because there's never enough money.
Never. Every single production, from a student film in a garage to a massive Marvel blockbuster, faces constraints. The director will always want more than the UPM can afford. You will always run out of time, you will always run out of money, and you will always lose your daylight. Successful filmmakers learn to manipulate the resources they do have to serve the story.
He didn't wait for permission or perfect circumstances.
Yeah.
He just organized the people he had, assumed the above-the-line leadership, managed his below-the-line friends, and started mechanically solving problems.
Exactly.
I mean, the technology is going to change constantly. The cameras you shoot on today will probably be obsolete in 5 years. But the principles of preparation, organization, communication, and adapting to constraints, those remain constant throughout your entire career.
They do. And if we look at the entire lifespan of that career, there is one final profound realization that really builds on everything this textbook has taught us.
Okay, what's that?
Well, the source emphasizes over and over that film productions are temporary organizations, right? You build the startup, you execute the vision, and then you completely dissolve the company.
The pop-up factory gets demolished.
Exactly. But think about the mechanics of that over a 20-year career. If the corporate entity disappears every single time the director calls rep, then perhaps the real, enduring organization you are building as a student filmmaker isn't the production entity at all.
Oh, that's interesting. What is the actual organization then?
It's the network. It's the recurring web of trusted, specialized collaborators that you take with you from one temporary project to the next.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
When you are shooting a weekend student film, you aren't just making a movie, you are auditioning your future department heads. The production company dissolves, sure, But the community you build, the UPM who can stretch a dollar, the first AD who keeps your set safe, the friends who help you poke holes in the film strip to make muzzle flashes, that community is permanent. That network is the actual studio you are building.
You are building your tribe, project by project, constraint by constraint.
I love that. So what does this all mean for you listening? It means great art requires great organization. Whether you're making a starting short or a blockbuster, you're building a temporary organization. Embrace the hierarchy not for power, but for communication. And treat your constraints as creative fuel.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Whether you are managing a 2,000-person crew or just figuring out how to shoot a masterpiece in your garage this weekend, we hope you take these structural lessons into your next big project. Catch you next time.